It doesn't work though when you live in Michigan, and usually I get called out when I say y'all. It doesn't work as well. So anyway, well, good to see you guys. Max Day, good to see you, my friend.
How you feeling, Brian?
Much better. Yeah, feeling much better. Thank you. Yeah, last week was a little rough still. It takes a little bit to get this thing out of your system. So if you're just hopping on, welcome to the Builders Call. We're just bantering a little bit here just for a minute before we get started, as we usually like to do. A little third gear, we call it, shifting up or shifting down. And yeah, but it hit me hard, and then, or I'd say it hit me medium, and then feeling a lot better. Yesterday was the first was lifted. So I went this morning to this local alternative medicine place and got injected with a bunch of vitamins. So that's supposed to help you too. So we'll see. How have you been doing out there?
I pound myself with vitamins every day.
Yeah.
And liquid vitamins and all kinds of different types of natural stuff to kind of keep my immunity up where it needs to be. And
absolutely,
been very blessed not to have ever had COVID. I've boosted up and all those kind of things. My wife and I both came back from Cancun, didn't have any problems at all. So, but I mean, I think, what you just did was a good thing, injecting yourself with that kind of thing. Vegetables and vitamins is really good for your system. You can't tell by how heavy I am because I eat all the other things too.
I know.
But at the end of the day, man, we've been very blessed and been getting our health together. I'm just excited to hear what the master cook man has to say today.
Absolutely. I think we're gonna jump right in because this time we'll go really quick, and we're really honored for all of you that are on. Of course, this is the Builders Call, and we want to make sure that every week we're providing valuable insights that contribute to the building work that you're doing, right? To build an agency, you need tools and you need resources. And I'm always amazed. I should probably say I'm never amazed, but at this point, because it's so predictable, but every week, there's something in these Builders Calls that inspires my leadership. And I know for agency leaders that are actively building, there's going to be something today that Chris shares or Joe your building work. And that's really the design of this call. It's very simply to help activate builders, to help equip builders, to help people that want to build an agency understand the ins and outs, the nuts and bolts of how to do that. And Chris Cook has been a leader that has done that well. MVP, right? Am I right? Managing Vice President Chris Cook, or did you level up?
I believe that's the terminology now for it.
All right. I can't keep up with all your promotions. So there you go. So Managing Vice President Chris Cook is with us, and his team. And so Chris, man, let me ask you, I'm gonna put you on the spot here and ask one building question, and then I'm gonna turn it over to you to lead us through our time. What is the biggest misconception, the building side of the business, right? The building agency side of the business. Now, we're not going to marry this for life and assume that this is your number one for all time, but just off the cuff, if you say, man, the biggest misconception about building is fill in the blank.
Biggest misconception about building. That's a tough one. I'm sure it'll hit me about 20 minutes from now because the introverted self needs to sit and think about it and then process it and then spit out an answer. Biggest misconception about building. Let me process that, man. I'm going to give it to you for the end of the call because I know Geoff or Joe or somebody will come up with it. I do think some misconceptions is that it's very, very, like, certainly it is it is a challenge, but they think it's far more difficult than it actually is. With the proper SFG word of the year process, I believe anybody can simplify it. A lot of people want to overcomplicate it. And so I think that can be a misconception. Now, is it difficult and is it a challenge dealing with people on different levels and emotional psychology and all the things that go into that? Absolutely. But I think if we put the proper process in place, it gives you peace of mind, and the people that you lead peace of mind, that you can lead them in the right direction in a more simplified manner, I think.
I love that. That's a fantastic answer. I like Zach's answer in the chat too, that we should wait, start.
Oh,
that's another, right? Like, I mean, there's 50 answers to this.
Stole our thunder, actually. That's actually it. Zach nailed it.
Living into a fearful future about something or living into a hopeful future about something, a lot of times the thing that is needed is just to smash the misconceptions. Fear stands for false expectations appearing real. And I think sometimes we just believe certain things, like it's going to be so hard to do. And it's actually very clear what you need to do. And it's difficult to do the work, like you mentioned, but it's clear what to do. And the more we put it off, we put off the learning curve, just like anything else. So anyway, really excited for what you're teeing up for us. So I'm going to baton pass over to you and your team, and you guys fire away.
Well, appreciate you, buddy. Well, my name is Chris Cook. I live here in Knoxville, Tennessee, folks, and I am direct to Symmetry Financial Group. I've been with the company now since January 17th, 2014 was my very first day of production. And I tell you guys, it's certainly been a wonderful experience, and certainly thank you guys for having me and the team on here. We're certainly honored to be a part of the Builders Call. And last week, John Ziller and Paige Jensen absolutely nailed it. Took tons of notes as always. So proud of you two. You guys did a phenomenal job, as did Andrew Jimenez on the national call last week. Just stellar stuff. So, I love what Zach said about the misconception. It is, part of it in building. I think it's a mindset, right, folks? You got to have the proper mindset. And a lot of people come here with the mindset, Brian, well, I've got to wait till I know it all, and then I can lead others. And it's almost like leading others with you at the same time that certainly SFG offers you an opportunity to do, because we all start out here self-employed as personal producers. And I know Geoff's going to nail a part of that here in a little bit. Jeff's probably sweating over there. He's like, he's going to take all of my material, man. So I'm not going to do it, Geoff. I'm going to let you nail that and take some of that out of the park, buddy. But I just wanted to share some successes of our team right now. This is not boasting. This is just simply, hey, this is some reasons they had us on the call, and just because we are seeing some success in the building world, and certainly that leads to success in the APV, annual premium volume world. Just share some growth percentages and celebrate our organization with all the agency owners out there going out and doing what they do. This was something Brandon Casey is like, man, you got to talk about this. Is really our growth percentage over first quarter of 2021 to 2022. Check out these numbers. So last January, February, March 2021, as an organization, all of our AOs, we did 833,000 in production. This 2022, 1.542 million, for an 85% growth rate year over year, quarter to quarter. And we're going to share with you some things that we think were the key catalysts for growth. During this part of the stuff today, we've had 247 recruits here to date. Certainly, we know that's being key. We can't make all of them go do it, but the good part is we can give all of them an opportunity to do it. And that certainly starts that funnel of recruiting. But I really do. I love that part about the mindset of not waiting. And certainly, Geoff, I'm going to leave that to you, but I am going to talk briefly about, when we started to change the mindset of our organization, the first 2, 3, 4 years that I was here, I could find myself sort of in that revolving door where it felt like I was building a business and coming on. And some of you agency owners may be at this level now and really relate to this is I built a business and I'd train people how to sell, right? And I'd train people how to sell because that's where my heart was. 10 years prior, I did mortgage protection sales for another company, another IMO, came over here to Symmetry, but I started to change my mindset, but didn't fully. I brought a lot of old bad habits with me. And some of you may be suffering through those bad habits. And I'm going to tell them myself. So I trained all these new people to go out and sell insurance. That's what I trained them to do, right? And what I did was I really hurt a lot of people in that process, not intentionally, nothing bad. I wanted them to make quick money, right? But one thing we really learned, if we really pay attention to Robert Kiyosaki's book, Cash Flow Quadrant, is knowing that on the left side of the quadrant, there's employee and self-employed. And personal production is a self-employed quadrant, right? It means when you go out and you write a policy, you get paid then, right? What Symmetry, the ingenious part about Symmetry, it lets you build a bridge quickly if you pay attention and don't wait to build a business to go up to the business builder. Well, guess what? I started building from day one. I hired 3 people before I turned in my first contract, before I wrote my first application. But you know what I didn't do? I didn't train other people to do that. I trained them to go out and make sales. And that really was an error on my part. And I could probably send out letters to a bunch of people because I was training people to be temporary. And I don't want you builders out there, because we're speaking to builders out there, people that want to build a business, don't make the same mistake I did, because certainly it was a mistake. And the reason is because obviously we know from the Robert Kiyosaki model is that left-hand side is a temporary model for business. So one of the things that we did to start to change our culture in our organization was ad nauseum. Some of you guys are going to get some bad feedback from your groups, like, man, he never trains us on personal production. He only talks about building a business. Well, I just knew that to help the people the best way possible, that I had to change the dynamic of the way I thought, and then really start presenting it every week on our Zoom session calls or our conference calls. I just started talking about building way more than I started talking about personal production. Started celebrating it more, started leaderboarding it more. So there's this thing, you may ask yourself, do you leaderboard your building as much or more than you do your personal production? I know that was a key component for us. One metric that I know really has helped change the culture, and Geoff knows, Joe knows, any of our agency owners, key leaders, people that are with us, is that I celebrate every week. I celebrate people that do 10 or more interviews in our organization. I celebrate the process, right? Not the result. I celebrate the process that leads to the result. And I'm telling you, the more and more people we started getting engaged with that activity, we started to see more permanent people, less revolving door with the people that we were in business with, which led to more and more duplication, and certainly manifest itself to more and more people in our business. But that was a key component for us. I just wanted to share that with everybody. So we celebrate a metric of people that did the process of 10 or more interviews in a week. And then we challenge people in, like, say, my individual base shop, challenge those people. How many people this week can we get to 10 or more? Geoff did the same. Joe, all of our agency owners, they took that challenge as well. And one thing that I realized, if I was the only one building in my business, I was the only permanent part of my business. So why would I be surprised when everything was a revolving door, right? Because I was the only one that was actually engaged in an activity that created permanence. And that was certainly eye-opening for me once I really started to look at that. And realizing too that great leaders are first great promoters, meaning they promote the Symmetry system. They promote things about Symmetry. They promote other people. They promote their people. And I just knew at that time I wasn't a great promoter of the correct things. I was promoting personal production, which is good. It's just not the thing that will lead to great things. And one of the things, and I'm going to mention this now, is we look at recruiting as like, okay, it's the end all. Yes, it is part of the equation, but I want to encourage you all to really think that recruiting is just part of the equation, because a lot of people will say, well, I recruited a bunch of people. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, at points in my career, I've recruited a lot of people, but if I miss these next 2 steps, then I failed the recruits that I actually recruited. And here's what I'm going to talk about. So Casey talks about it, engagement. If I get a new recruit, yet I never, Brian, get that recruit on a conference call, or I never get them to a conference, which we're going to talk about more in a little bit, failed that recruit. That's the engagement quantity of it. One of the metrics that we track, our agency owners track, I track, is how many people do we have on our Zoom calls each week? How many people do we have plugging into our dial sessions? How many people do we have at our in-person trainings across the country? That's just as important as our front end funnel, which is the recruiting, because if we never actually get those people to any of those things, we never actually get symmetry inside those people. And last thing on there, and it's something key that Brandon Casey talked about, is lead distribution. Well, if I recruit them get them fired up. They're on all these calls. They've listened to every training, but they don't have lead distribution, which is really the lifeblood of business in this community that we're all in. Then they've also failed because they missed the last portion of the business where they actually can go out and convert those clients into prospects and be able to write applications for those clients. So remember, it's recruiting, engagement, lead distribution. There's 3 quantifiable ways to look at it. And it starts with recruiting. Yes, you've got to have the people. And then you go engagement and you go lead distribution. If you're not increasing those 3 things, hard for you to still maintain a successful growing business on there. So just wanted to mention that stuff before I send it over. Joe Martinez, you out there, buddy? Did I lose him?
He looks froze for the minute.
He must be froze. Well, no worries. I'll go over to my other partner in crime. I'll go over to Geoff Miller. So, Joe, if you will, work on getting your cell phone froze. If you got to put your cell phone, it'll be fine. So, Geoff, buddy, introduce yourself, man. Tell us who you are, everything.
You got it, Chris. Geoff Miller. I am direct to Joe Martinez. Hey, he's back. To Joe Martinez, Mark Newbauer, and Chris Cook. Just honored to be here on the call. I'm in Phoenix, Arizona. And I've been with Symmetry. I sold my other business, which I was a captive agent with a home and auto insurance company. And I sold that in June of 2020 and started full-time here just after the 4th of July of 2020. So a little bit about me. Yeah, just excited to be here. I'm going to brag on my team real quick, if it's okay.
Yeah, absolutely, buddy.
You know, it's kind of crazy. You know, I started recruiting really back in January of last year. And when I started recruiting, I had myself and one other writer. This January, because of my team, I had 24 writers on my team. And to me, that's pretty exciting. We went from 26,000, over 26,000 for January of 2020 of team production with the 2 of us to a little over 186,000 this January. And it's, you know, I'm so glad that your culture with your team is all about building, because the reason why I left my other company that I was with is because I was going to have to continue doing what I was doing week after week, month after month, and year after year. So yeah, pretty exciting stuff. Yeah, it's exciting. Quarter 1 over quarter 2, just some other numbers to brag on my team. We did 146,000 first quarter last year, a little over 517,000 the first quarter this year. The crazy part about this, and you talked about this, Chris, a lot of times in your calls, recruiting growth quarter over quarter, 307% from last year to this year. APV growth, 354%. It's amazing how those correspond with each other, correlate with each other, right? Pretty exciting stuff there. So yeah, and I'm just blessed. I've got some great builders on my team. I've got some great producers, and you know, because of the culture on the Chris Cook team, you know, we teach about building. It's about building a legacy for our families, for our futures. And I'm going to go over a couple of key things that I think are really important. It's not just about building, right? It's about getting people started quickly, because you can recruit and onboard a ton of people, but if you're not getting them plugged in the system, the training, and getting them started making money quickly, they're going to quit, right? It's important to get your agents started quickly, because if you don't, and they don't start making money very quickly, they're not going to stick around. And you know, one of the things that I do with that, I meet with my new agents after they get their license and they're onboarding, they've gone through the training, and I spend about an hour with them, right? Going over their goals, their financial goals, their you know, time and money goals, what they're willing to invest in leads, the kind of things that if you don't go over these things when you get a new agent started, guess what? They don't know where to start. They don't know how many leads to buy. They don't know how much to invest. And if they say, hey, I want to make $10,000 a month, and they're willing to invest $50 a week in leads, those numbers don't match up, right? We have to make sure that when we get them started, that they have the right expectations to get where they want to get. And that's one of the things that, man, Joe Martinez did for me, because when I first got started, he said, hey, you're going to have to dial 1,000 dials a week if you want to make a 6-figure income quickly. And I'm like, okay, right. But he said, the good thing is you won't have to do it for long. And I'm happy to say I never hit 1,000 dials in a week to hit my 20 appointments booked. I did hit close to 900, so I got close there. But within a relatively short period of time, those numbers kept getting smaller and smaller of the times or the dials that I had to make because I got better, right? I had that massive action, constant correction to get good at my skill. So, getting your agent started is so important. This isn't a job. You're not telling them what to do, but you got to give them a road to follow, right? You got to give them the expectations and the guides to hit things right. So super excited for that. Getting them making money quickly. And remember, guys, and Chris, you talked about this, producers are temporary. Builders are permanent, right? If you bring agents on your team and you teach them to build, they're going to have other agents on their team. And guess what? There's that fear of loss, right? If you have 5 or 6 agents on your team, you don't want to quit because you don't want to. What if one of those becomes the next Chris Cook or the next Joe Martinez, right? You don't want to quit. So if you can help people get that team built and help them with that, that's also going to help cover a lot of their production costs as well, right? Buying leads, now you're not purchasing leads, you're not investing leads because your team overrides are. Let me just see, just looking at some of my notes here. Another thing, we're reading the book, Atomic Habits. So good, right? Such a great book. It talks about in there that goals are super important, but what's more important, at least in my opinion, and I think in the author's opinion too, is having systems and processes in place. Because we all set goals, we all join the gym January 1, right? And then 3 weeks later, we never hit the gym again. It's because we don't have a system in place. We don't have things in place to make sure that we follow through those systems. In the 1.5 or almost 2 years I've been with Symmetry, I don't think I've hit one of my goals in the time that I wanted to hit it. But I did hit them because of the process that I had put in place. Because even if my first goal was to be AO January of 2021, I missed it by 6 months. But because I had systems in place and processes in place, you can see the numbers, by the end of the year, it blew past any expectations that I had with my team's volume because I stuck to the system, I stuck to the process. And I know we're getting short on time. So one last thing here. When the one thing that Joe Martinez did for me that made things super good is he said, hey, Geoff, you want to build, right? He says, great. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to invest $1,000 a month. And he got me started investing in my future and my business to build. And if he wouldn't have done that, I don't know if I'd be an agency owner today because he was my leader. He worked with me directly on a day-to-day basis. He said, let's go, let's build together. And we ran together. And I have the honor of introducing Mr. Smoking Joe Martinez.
Hey, thank you. Everybody hear me all right?
Yeah, you demonstrated great persistence. We all have internet issues. You went from phone to computer to phone. So
I'm hopping all over the place.
All right.
Well, awesome. Well, again, guys, Joe Martinez. I've been with Symmetry now 4 years. I'm direct to Mark Newbauer in the Chris Cook hierarchy. Just honored and blessed to be here and to share some of our study for the builders call. I just wanted to hit, we were talking about results with Chris a couple of days ago. I posted some of these results on Facebook and stuff and got a lot of traction on it, but it was just really cool. So I like to go over these numbers really quick. So in 2018, I started in April. Really, it was just me and a few other people that I would hire throughout the year. Premium-wise, we turned in $331,000. In 2019, I didn't put this to the test, right? In personal production, I said, I'm going to go out there and see what uncapped income really looks like. And in capped premium as an organization, we turned in about 374. I think uncapped, it was like 420,000, right? And that's just me and about 5 other agents off and on. But what I realized in 2019, right, it was great income. I think I made like 240 on my own pin outside of the organization, but it was a lot of work. Right? We were still driving back then, so I was back and forth. And just realized I don't want to do this by myself, right? Because I'm looking around and I see Chris' organization growing and everyone else in Symmetry. I'm just like, I need a program and stop doing what everyone, right? That question that you asked, Ryan, what's the biggest misconception is let's wait and say, hey, let me see how this works. I'll start building, right? Don't do what I did for a year and a half and wait, right? So in 2020, I said, hey, you know what? We're going to figure this out and start building. We actually focused more on building. Our production went down as an organization. We did 294,000. But what we did is we had something really good in place, because when we came into 2021, like Geoff said, when he came aboard, I'm like, hey, I'm building and we're building organizations here. This is a process that we have in place. And I love him for that, right? He was just like, okay, if that's what we have to do to build an organization, he was on board. What's next? Right? We talk about the what next question as a new agent, but he did it as a builder. And I think that's a huge thing, right? When we're teaching new agents to come in here and ask what's next as a builder, right? What's the next process that I need to do to build an organization? So we went from 294,000 in 2020 as an organization to 2021. Last year, we finished at 1.5 million. It's just insane explosion in growth. And really, we just put two boxes that Casey always talks about, right? We were teaching producers to come in here and say, hey, 20K in production. And as an organization, we're looking for 20 contracts back, right? And then you got to level up your as you grow, right? Because I tell everyone, this is a business that you have to track, right? In every business, you have to scale it. And sometimes your goals change throughout your process, right? Or throughout time. And so it was 20 contracts at the beginning, but then we started that in January, and in March and April, we hit 37, 38 contracts back as an organization. I say, hey, you know what? We need to change the goal to 40, right? And it's just been a really cool run. 2022 first quarter, we're already at 784,000, half of what it took us to do last year. Super excited to see what's coming, right? And our recruiting numbers are just exploding again. So now we're over 45 contracts back a month, right, as an organization. And really what changed, I'll try to finish this up in the next 2 minutes, is you come in here when you start building, you need to make sure you're working on your self-development as a builder as well, right? Because I think that's different. We talk a lot about self-development as a producer and agent, right? Having a mindset to resit with clients and chase the dials and have that strength to go through it, right? But there's a lot of that in the building as well, right? And it's a different mindset because, Chris, I think you told me this a while back ago, right? The mindset of a producer, you get instant results almost, right? Especially right now with the lead of the speed and everything Symmetry has. I mean, you can purchase leads today, book appointments today, and if you're writing an SBLI, you're paid tomorrow. Like you have instant results, right? And that is not the case in building, right? I love, Chris always puts this in front of us, that your APV is a historical sheet fact of what you did 3 or 4 months ago in building and recruiting, right? And that couldn't be more true. So I love to talk about the mindset of a builder. You need to make sure you're self-developing yourself and understanding that you're dealing with people at a different level, because it's not a sale, right? You're helping them build an organization, and those results, even for them, take a lot longer. So you got to have a lot more patience and be a better leader to help coach them correctly, because they ask a lot of questions as a new agent coming in here. The self-development and building a culture in your organization for them to start building from the beginning, right? So we've made that shift over the past, Chris, I love how we've shifted over the past 2 years, really, and you talked about it earlier, right? How we used to talk a lot about production. Now it's all about building, and we keep stats and stuff like that in front of our new agents. And we use Band a lot, and we post these things all the time and how it's changed our organization, because we have new agents that come in here and start building an organization. In my base shop, we have a Chris Hare, who in his first 3 weeks, really not even licensed yet, had 10 contracts back, right? And then he's building a culture, because just this past 2 days ago, one of his new agents, that same thing is in licensing, already has 6 or 7 interviews booked this week, and I'm helping her run them. Her name's Lacey Shelton, right? And it's just super cool to see that culture being instilled in our organization because of what we're putting in front of them, just like Chris said, right? So I'll leave y'all with that, right?
Yeah.
It's what you put in front of them is what's going to grow. And we've made that shift as an organization inside the cook hierarchy. And it's amazing the results that we've been seeing.
Yeah, guys, this has been so valuable. Let me share a few things that I wrote down just as highlights for everybody as we land. First of all, what are you waiting on, right? Start now. The biggest misconception about building might be just to wait until you have it figured out. Number 2, celebrate the process, focus on the process, not the result. It sounds a lot like Nick Saban's advice to me in his book that I'm still reading, focus on the process. Chris, I love that you said, focus on the activities that create permanence. That is a very powerful thought. Activities that create permanence. We all know that we need activities that create some near-term, bread on the table, but activities that create permanence. And then Geoff also giving clear direction, right? Making sure that you match metrics with expectations and the results, right? And we always like to say around here, you can't control outcomes. You can only control the activities that lead to outcomes. So Chris and team, thanks so much for adding just a ton of value. Any final thoughts, Chris, before we launch
the last and final thought, and the most important thing, you can recruit people, you can get them lead distribution. Here's the key though, and I'm going to leave you, and this is 8 years of experience, Symmetry talking to you. If you don't go to conference in Denver, Colorado, in the August, I believe it's 17th through the 19th. I hope I have the dates wrong. It doesn't matter, because that is the catalyst for you to grow a business, personal production. It's the key, because it gave me the belief 8 years ago that I could do this. And I went 2 weeks after I started. It was the catalyst for all the growth that you've seen since the day I started, was me making the smart decision to make conference a non-negotiable.
Love it. All right, gents, over to you.
Hey, Chris.